I don't have any more respect for any program in the country than Kirby's. He's built an unbelievably competitive program. You know what you're getting. That was Jim Nagy. If you don't know who Jim Nagy is, wouldn't be the end of the world. He is the executive director of the Senior Bowl, the Reese's Senior Bowl, and has been doing that job for I don't know how long he's been doing that for. We got to get him on the show one of these days. But he was talking about Kirby, the program at Georgia, etc. And I wanted to touch on this for a little bit because in all of the time that we've had here lately with college football and the change, Kirby is one of three people in college football now with a national championship. If I'm not mistaken, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, because Mac Brown is out at Carolina. So you got Dabo, Kirby, and I almost said Jim Tressel, and Ryan Day up at Ohio State. I think you could say the same thing about Ryan Day in Ohio State. It's a very, very good program up there, and will be good for a long time. But we, to some degree, it feels like right now we're at a crossroads at Georgia. I know that might be a little bit excessive, aggressive, however you want to call it. But stick with me when I talk about this for a second here. Before the national championships, there was, it felt like Kirby and company were building towards something. And it turns out it was building toward a national championship. Now you're 2 seasons removed from the most recent national title. And no starter from those teams, the national championships, are in the program anymore. So there's a changing of the guard. I mean, the guy that, very possibly could have won a Heisman Trophy, won a national championship at Georgia, Carson Beck, he's not there anymore, and he went to Miami. You had some coaches leave, none lately that were overly critical, I wouldn't say. But it feels like this is an important time. The other thing that's happened in the league, there's 2 other things. The league has changed. You've now got 16 teams in the league, whatever it is. I can barely keep up. You got the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, and of course you have an expanded playoff. So things have changed. Now, good is good though, and I think that's the important part I want to nail down on here. And this is what Jim Nagy's talking about: is if you continue to do the right things all of the time, it's going to add up for you. And if you're not doing that, it's going to add up. It's going to take away. It's going to add up against you. And I do wonder if we've hit a crossroad at Georgia. That's hard to say, but it feels like that a little bit. And for the record, the crossroad, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing. But, for Georgia, in terms of what Jim Nagy's talking about, he's talking about putting guys in the NFL very specifically. You know what you're getting. I think the exact quote is, you know what you're getting. He's talking about the players. That's why it's not surprising, honestly, when you think about I will say what's surprising in a second, but when you think about Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, Jordan Davis, Jalen, Nolan, Nakobe, all of them, what's surprising to me is that Brock Bowers fell as much as he did. I mean, I know he plays tight end. People got that wrong. I mean, they just straight up got that wrong. I wonder how many places would love to have had Brock Bowers looking back on it. But that's the sort of stuff that you're getting. Now, I don't think it's a surprise. If you're the players are that good is what I mean. If you're looking at Georgia moving forward, Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, they made plays their first year that they played, which in both cases was 21. But the style at which Kirby won his national championships is not the style of college football anymore. And I do wonder, what I mean by that is now you have a lot of the ability to guys leave and play at other places, so you can't stack talent like you used to have the ability to. I do wonder that if it's all relative though. Like what I mean to say by that is, what I mean to say by saying that is, if it's all relative, then that should still mean that Georgia, Ohio State, Texas have the most consistent best players that are out there. I don't know. And the other thing is too that Georgia now has the ability to get guys that they didn't get a while ago because of the portal too. And you see that with Branch coming in the portal. You had that with ETN last year. So it's not all bad. I will say this. The one guy that didn't make sense in the portal this past season was Wilson leaving to go to Missouri. That was one that I'm not sure I understood that. But even with money-wise, I'm not sure I understood that. I will add, too, though, that this is going to be up on Dawg Post sooner than later. Eventually, talking about the article I was talking about, eventually the contracts that are coming for guys to sign NIL deals are going to come with hooks that mean that the guys, they have to stay at the school for a particular number of years, say 3 years or something like that. Like these NIL deals are going to start. So there's a difference between what the schools are going to have to start paying in July. There's so much in the air right now. That's what I've written about at Dawg Post. There's so much in the air right now that it looks like it's going to land a particular way, but it's still up in the air. And what I mean to say by that is, if there is a lawsuit that the conferences, the NCAA, the conferences, the schools, they've all agreed to the settlement for this class action lawsuit. And if that class action lawsuit is not accepted by the court, you're going to have a lot of uncertainty, and nobody dislikes uncertainty more than people in business. And make no mistake, these schools are in business. So if that goes down the way it's supposed to, or the way people think it will, you're talking about $20 million that are paid out to student athletes at the schools. Gymnastics, equestrian, starting quarterback. All those people are going to get paid some sort of revenue. Now, with that said, then you also have NIL deals that are going to be sort of tied together with the school. What is yet to be seen, and what I think will happen over in the near future, is there is the possibility that transfers will slow down will be as a result of there being hooks in some of these NIL deals. For instance, if let's use Brock Bowers as an example, because he's just an example. So let's say Brock has a deal with Dawg Post, okay? And he has a 3-year deal with Dawg Post, and after the third year, he can leave to go to the NFL, or he can go, to another school. And that deal would be in place for him, but he would have to stay at Georgia during that time. There will be contracts between the school's people, or perhaps the schools in the future. I mean, the schools are definitely afraid of guys becoming employees, but I have to say, there's a lot the schools should be nervous about. That, one thing being the notion that they're a nonprofit organization. They're completely for profit. I don't know how that's stayed on as long as it has. And then players being considered employees would change things too. But I say all that, and you get to the point where Nagy's at. Every single player that comes out of Georgia that's going to the NFL, I think Isaiah Wilson might be the lone exception of you. What you see is what you get. Like, there's a common denominator, which is these guys are going to be dependably good players to great players. If you got a third-round guy in Nakobe Dean who's, quote, slipped in the draft, you probably got a lot of value there because he's probably not a third-rounder. And as it turns out, it looks like the Eagles have got somebody who's not a third-rounder. If you look at, like, Kamari Lassiter for Houston, he's been a great player for them. All of that's going to spill over to wins. The crossroads part I'm talking about is all the other ancillary things in the background. All of the things that you need to pay attention to if you are, Kirby and them. They've never had to deal with this sort of stuff before. So that's the part I think I'd be paying attention to. But in terms of, you signed, let me just say any player who they just signed. I mean, this recruiting class is a pretty good class. Let's just say you're Isaiah Gibson. I saw Isaiah Gibson. I saw Elijah Griffin play. I saw them both play. Really good players. I think Taylor could be a guy that could be a star as well. What would those guys be like if they have 3 or 4 productive years at Georgia and then they go on to the NFL draft? My suspicion is they're going to be really good players, but they have to go through the gauntlet that is playing at Georgia to get to that point. And that's the part where I think Kirby and them make such progress with players. They know exactly what they're doing. The part that people miss the most about Kirby Smart is the part where he develops players. He is really good at his program is really good at that. And if you don't think that's true, there's a lot of examples of that over the last few years. Vlad McConkey is probably the biggest example, the best example. Stetson Bennett's not a bad example either, though. Thanks for watching.